English mariner John Strong made the first recorded landing on the Falkland Islands in 1690. 75 years later, the British established their first settlement on Saunders Island, called Jasontown, with the surrounding body of water referred to as Port Egmont. Vice Admiral John Byron, who led the expedition, was rather impressed, naming the area after the Earl of Egmont, the first Lord of the Admiralty. In his diary, he famously wrote, "This is one of the finest harbours in the world. The whole Navy might ride here in perfect security from all winds." What they didn't know was the French had already established Port Louis 1 year earlier.
The garrison started, and the French had a look in beforehand, actually, because in their cruising about they'd noticed Port Egmont and said what a fine harbour it was. And it was literally survival, because elsewhere in the world you've got another town, another something. Here there was nothing. Nature was absolutely in charge, so half the garrison had to maintain and create gardens to keep the naval settlement going, and the other half did surveying. So they're multitaskers of necessity, and I believe that applies to many things in the Falklands. Our motto should be of necessity, because of necessity you just got on and did it. There was no other way out.
Astonishingly, neither knew of each other's existence. In 1766, Captain McBride had found an important discovery. It was reported that his search party had found an old bottle washed up on the shores, which contained a note with all the names of the French officers who travelled from France to establish Port Louis. Both refused to budge and maintained their claim to the islands, but in relative peace. It wasn't until 1770, when the Spanish arrived, things began to change.
So they sent a fleet to get rid of the British. I think there were quite a number of ships, 1,400 troops, and it was conducted in a very gentlemanly fashion. They gave the British time to withdraw, and by a process of what's still described as the secret letters, Spain actually gave it back to Britain. So Britain came back again. It's really very, very complicated, tremendously interesting, but it shows the sort of changing faces of the Falklands.
The event is known as the Falklands Crisis, in which three superpowers of the time, Britain, nearly went to full-scale war against the Spanish, backed by the French. In 1771, Captain John Stott arrived to take the colony back for Britain, and for the next 5 years the site became an important stop for ships travelling around Cape Horn. By 1776, the settlement was on the move again.
Well, the British government decided that the garrison on the Falklands was getting a bit expensive to maintain, and they decided to withdraw the garrison. So the commandant there, Whitron Clayton, put a large lead plaque, nailed it to the blockhouse door, saying that the whole place belonged to the British government, the King of England. And sadly that plaque was removed and taken to London for some reason and put in what was called the Grand Government Storehouse in London, which caught fire and burnt down. So as far as I can see, that's what's happened to the plaque.
With the British away, the settlement was left in the hands of sealers and private ventures, but fell into a state of disrepair by 1790, before being destroyed and dismantled by the Spanish.
So it was a busy place, but gradually the garrison's buildings and everything else got run down, and as it is today, you can just see the little harbour where they had their small boats docked, and the remains of the gardens where the blockhouse was. So one can almost start again with the Saunders Island story. And to me, Saunders is just a wonderful place, because you can sit out there on a nice day or even a bad day and think, well, this is what it was like when the world began.
More recently, in 1997, delegates, including local historian John Smith, travelled to Saunders and unveiled a replica of the old lead plaque that was left 100 years previously and can still be seen to this day.
Yes, we got a new plaque put up, and we put another plaque on a couple of graves halfway up the mountain, which is good. It lets people see that we haven't forgotten those early days, and it's still a wonderfully British place.
Nature has claimed the settlement back with a wide variety of wildlife, latching onto the shores of Saunders Island. Nevertheless, the historical significance can never be forgotten.